You never forget the moment someone decides you're disposable. One minute you're sitting in the same chair you've warmed for over a decade, sipping lukewarm coffee and working through another spreadsheet like every other Friday. Then your boss, grinning like he's got good news, asks to have a quick word. And suddenly the air in your lungs goes stale. They always use the same soft words for something brutal. We're going in a new direction. This isn't performance-related. It's not personal. But it is. You feel it in your chest like a betrayal because you gave them years, and they gave you nothing back. Before we dive in, where are you listening from, and what time is it for you right now? Drop a comment below. I read everyone. I arrived early. My name is Daniel Reeves. I'm 41, divorced, and for 15 years I did everything right. Showed up early, stayed late, never made waves. I was the kind of employee managers loved because I didn't ask for more than what I earned. And I earned a lot, not just money, trust, respect, reputation, or so I thought. The truth is, the moment I stopped being useful to someone higher up the ladder, none of that mattered. I wasn't flashy, didn't network over bourbon or kiss ass in meetings. I just did the job better than most, and I thought that would be enough. Then Greg Danner showed up. My new boss, barely 35, all teeth and tailored suits. The kind of guy who calls you buddy, but doesn't remember your last name. From the first week, I saw the shift. The office culture got slicker, louder. Promotion started going to the loudest people in the room, not the smartest. Greg didn't care about results unless they made him look good. What he wanted were followers, people who'd laugh at his jokes, nod when he barked ideas, and never question a thing. And I wasn't built like that. It didn't take long before I went from running major accounts to reviewing expense reports. I tried to take it in stride, told myself it was just corporate restructuring. Maybe he didn't know what I could do yet. But months passed, and the message became clear. I was being boxed out, death by demotion, and I took it, because I still believed that doing good work mattered, that someone would see I was being sidelined unfairly. That belief vanished the Friday before Labor Day. Greg called me into the glass box they called a meeting room. No HR, no warning. He used words like realignment and efficiency. Told me my position was being sunsetted, not terminated, not eliminated. Sunsetted. Like I was an old app feature past its update. No severance, no notice, just a hollow smile and a printed packet. I didn't get mad, didn't raise my voice. I thanked him. Yes, I actually thanked him, and walked out with my dignity and a cardboard box. But on the drive home, something inside me calcified. Not rage, not bitterness, just a quiet, steel-hard decision. A man like Greg needed to learn what it felt like to lose everything. I spent the next 3 months in a fog. You don't realize how much of your identity is wrapped up in your job until it's gone. My days were suddenly long and silent. No early meetings, no status reports, no reason to shave. I'd wake up at 7 out of habit, then just sit at the kitchen table staring into my coffee. I updated my resume, sent out applications, took a few interviews that led nowhere. They'd smile politely when they saw my age, ask vague questions about culture fit, and then disappear into silence. It wasn't just that I was out of work, I felt invisible. But beneath the numbness, I couldn't stop thinking about Greg. I wasn't obsessed, not in the dramatic movie villain way. It was quieter than that. I kept replaying that meeting, his smug face, the way he dismissed 15 years like they were nothing. I thought about all the extra hours I worked, the holidays I missed with my daughter to hit deadlines, the projects I saved from falling apart, and how none of it protected me from a man like him. That's when something shifted. I couldn't change the past, but I could do something about how it ended. Around Thanksgiving, I bumped into an old colleague, Jeff, at a coffee shop. He'd also left the company, voluntarily, he said, but the bitterness in his voice told a different story. We swapped war stories for an hour before he leaned in and said, "You know Greg's been trying to sell that big place out in Oak Hollow?" I raised an eyebrow. I didn't even know where Greg lived. "Yeah," Jeff continued. "Heard he over-leveraged himself. Bought big, assumed those bonuses would keep rolling in. Market turned, and now he's bleeding. House is underwater. Foreclosure auction's coming up in a month or two if he can't sell it fast." That lit something in me. Not joy, not yet. Just interest. I went home and started digging. Public records are easy to search when you know where to look. Sure enough, there it was. A 6-bedroom monstrosity in a gated suburb, way above what a regional VP should have been able to afford. Purchased right after Greg's promotion. I imagined him walking those marble floors, feeling untouchable, throwing parties by the pool with the same charm he used to throw people like me out the door. But the numbers didn't lie. He was drowning. The auction was scheduled for late January. It was a bank sale. Anonymous, cash-only bidding, handled through a local firm that specialized in distressed properties. No names, no handshakes. You just wired the funds, made your bid, and waited. I'd done well over the years. I lived modestly, saved aggressively, and never tried to keep up with the guys flashing BMW keys and overpriced suits. I'd never planned to use my savings this way, but the thought of turning Greg's arrogant mistake into my opportunity? It felt like justice. So I started the process, carefully, quietly. The day of the auction was cold. Gray sky, biting wind, the kind that makes your joints ache just to remind you you're not as young as you used to be. I arrived early, not because I had to, but because I needed a moment. I sat in my truck across from the courthouse annex, watching the small crowd gather. A couple of investors, some flippers, maybe 1 or 2 hopefuls looking for a steal. No one stood out. That's how these things go. Everyone plays it close. No eye contact, no small talk. It's not personal. Except this time, for me, it was. The bidding was over in less than 15 minutes. Greg's house wasn't a hot property. Too big, too bloated for the current market. The bank set the opening low just to unload it. I had run the numbers a dozen times, checked the comps, knew exactly how high I could go and still come out ahead if I needed to resell it. But the truth is, I didn't care about reselling. I wasn't there to turn a profit. I was there to take something from him the way he took something from me. My bid stood, no counter, just a nod from the auctioneer and a receipt in my hand with a long address typed across the top. I was now the owner of Greg Danner's dream house. I didn't go see it right away. That part surprised me. I thought I'd want to walk through the halls, touch the granite countertops, sit on the edge of the pool he probably bragged about during happy hours. But I waited. It wasn't about the house itself. It was about what it represented. Power, status, security, everything he thought made him untouchable. Now it was mine. And he didn't even know. The funny thing is, the neighborhood didn't match him. Oak Hollow was quiet, almost rural, the kind of place where kids ride bikes in cul-de-sacs and everyone waves whether they know you or not. Greg always talked like he belonged in downtown high-rises and rooftop lounges, not behind wrought iron gates and family-friendly HOA rules. That made it all the sweeter. He bought this place because he thought it proved something, but it only proved how fragile his whole image really was. Through a contact in the title office, I found out he'd moved out 2 weeks before the sale finalized. No notice to neighbors, no goodbyes, just packed up and vanished into a rental somewhere across town. Word was he still hadn't told anyone what happened. Maybe he was embarrassed. Maybe he still thought he could bounce back. Men like Greg don't admit failure easily. I imagined him telling people he sold early or cashed out. But inside, I knew he felt it. That hollow pit when something you built your whole identity around is gone. I took my time moving in. I didn't change much. Left the paint colors, the landscaping, even the tacky wine rack in the kitchen. I didn't want to erase his taste. I wanted to live in it, quietly, unbothered, like a ghost. It's a strange thing, living in another man's dream. Every morning I'd wake up and pad across those polished hardwood floors, the ones he probably bragged about during team meetings. I'd brew my coffee in his oversized kitchen, sit at the island under pendant lights that looked like they came straight out of a magazine spread. At first, I felt like a visitor, like I didn't belong. But that feeling faded. Slowly. Day by day, the house stopped being Greg's and started becoming mine. There were signs of him everywhere. A shelf in the office still had faint outlines where his awards once sat. The garage had faint oil stains exactly where a luxury sedan used to be parked. Even the thermostat had a stupid custom label, Danner Zone. I didn't wipe that off. I wanted to see it. Every time I adjusted the temperature, it reminded me of exactly whose ego used to live here, and how fragile it really was. I didn't tell anyone. Not my daughter, not my neighbors, not even Jeff, who'd unknowingly lit the match months ago in that coffee shop. This wasn't about gloating. It wasn't about applause. It was something quieter than revenge, something simpler. Control. When Greg took my job, he didn't just take a paycheck. He took my footing in the world. He made me question my worth, made me wonder if all those years meant nothing. This house, as strange as it sounds, was a way of reclaiming that. It wasn't about destroying him. It was about reminding myself that I still mattered, that I could lose everything and still land on my feet. I got into a rhythm, spent my mornings applying to consulting gigs, afternoons walking the neighborhood or fixing little things around the house. There was always something to do. A leaky faucet, a cracked fence post, some poor wiring in the basement Greg probably ignored. I liked the work. It was honest, tangible. I'd spent so many years in spreadsheets and strategy decks that I forgot what it felt like to fix something with my hands. Out here there were no meetings, no office politics, just wood, metal, sweat, and time. Then one evening in early spring, it happened. I was out front trimming the hedges when a familiar voice called out from a few yards down the street. "Hey, Danny, that you?" I turned. It was Greg. He looked different, smaller somehow, not physically, but worn down. His smile was the same, but the confidence behind it was cracked. He had a rental car parked up the street and a dog I didn't recognize tugging at a leash. "I was just driving by," he said, laughing like it was a joke. "Crazy seeing you here. Visiting someone?" I let the trimmer fall silent, looked him dead in the eyes and said, "No. I live here." The color drained from his face. For a moment, Greg just stood there, blinking like he'd misheard me. "You live here?" he repeated, voice thinner now. I watched his eyes scan the porch, the fresh paint on the front door, the tidy shrubs I'd trimmed that morning. I could practically see him trying to piece it together, trying to imagine how a guy like me, someone he dismissed so easily, could afford his house. "Yeah," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "Picked it up at auction. Timing was lucky, I guess." I let that sink in. He nodded slowly, still working his mouth like he had something clever to say, but couldn't find the words. The mask he always wore, that cocky sales guy grin, was gone. In its place was something I'd never seen on his face before. Uncertainty. He glanced at the house again, then back at me. "Well, it's a great place," he said. "Lot of memories here." He tried to laugh, but it came out dry. "You planning to flip it?" I just smiled. "Nah, I'm staying." He didn't say much after that, just a few nods and a stiff, "Take care," before walking back to his car. The dog barked twice like it was impatient. I watched him drive away, shoulders hunched, posture deflated. He didn't look back. That night, I sat on the back porch with a glass of bourbon. The same porch Greg probably used for those after-hours strategy calls or his curated Instagram shots, back when his life looked perfect from the outside. Now it was quiet, peaceful. Just the rustle of leaves and the distant hum of crickets. I should have felt triumphant, but I didn't. I just felt settled. This wasn't revenge the way people imagine it. I didn't sabotage his career or scream for justice. I didn't try to ruin him. What I did was simple. I took back control. I turned the script on a man who thought people like me were invisible. And maybe, just maybe, I made him feel, if only for a minute, what it's like to be powerless. The thing is, I don't hate Greg. Not really. He's a product of the same system I spent my life trying to survive. A system where power flows to the loudest voice, where loyalty matters more than skill, and where quiet work is seen as weakness. He didn't fire me out of spite. He fired me because I was inconvenient. And maybe that's the saddest part. I've had time to think. Time to let go of the anger. I even found work again. Not a full-time job, but consulting gigs that pay well and let me work on my terms. I spend more time with my daughter now. I cook more, sleep better. The world didn't end when Greg fired me. In some strange way, it began. I didn't just buy a house that day at auction. I bought my peace back. Spring turned to summer, and the house stopped feeling like a symbol and started feeling like home. I painted the upstairs guest room a soft gray and turned it into an office. I tore out the overgrown garden bed Greg probably never touched and planted tomatoes, peppers, and herbs. My daughter, Claire, came by on weekends. She was 17 now, sharp, observant, said things like, "This place doesn't feel like you, Dad," the first time she saw it. I laughed and told her, "It didn't, but it's getting there." She didn't ask how I got it. I think part of her didn't want to know, or maybe she sensed there was more to the story than I was ready to share. Either way, she saw something different in me those days. Not anger, not sadness, just calm. We cooked dinner together, ate on the back patio under string lights I hung by hand. It wasn't flashy, but it was real. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. I ran into Greg one more time, a few months later, at a gas station, of all places. He was filling up a scratched-up sedan, wearing a wrinkled polo and looking like someone who'd stopped caring how people saw him. He recognized me instantly, gave me a nod, a stiff smile. No small talk this time. Just two men who shared something unspoken, one who'd fallen and one who'd climbed back without anyone noticing. We didn't say a word. And we didn't need to. That silence told me everything I needed to know. He remembered. He knew. And he carried it. I didn't need him to apologize. Didn't need him to grovel or explain. The power had already shifted. Not because I took his house, but because I'd taken back control of my life. I wasn't chasing titles anymore, or trying to prove my worth in boardrooms. I'd realized something simple and quiet that people spend decades missing. Sometimes the best revenge isn't making someone else feel what you felt. Sometimes it's showing them that you survived it, and they couldn't stop you. The house, the auction, the moment on the porch. It wasn't about vengeance. It was about dignity and healing. And in the end, I didn't win because I beat Greg. I won because I remembered who I was before he made me forget.